everybody who coaches this game has seen someone who gets in front of them who seems to have a lot of natural talent, but they don't work hard, so they don't really go as far as they would certainly have the potential to. I think that has to come from within. I think the desire needs to be there, and early on, I think you cultivate that um, with fun, making sure golf is fun. I've had a few players who've gone to some pretty high levels whose parents made them go practice, and they end up they end up hating the game.
Welcome to the Golf Parent, where golf's top minds share the secrets, strategies, and shortcuts to give your junior golfer the edge on and off the course. I'm your host, Ryan Addams, and today's conversation is with Ed Oldham. Ed's a seasoned coach who's been shaping junior golfers for years. And in this episode, we dig into the evolution of coaching, why mindset and parental influence matters as much as swing mechanics, and how the right environment can help kids thrive in golf and in life. And if you're a parent looking for practical ways to support your junior golfer's development, this is the episode for you. This one's packed with takeaways. You're going to enjoy it. Stay tuned right to the end. And now to the episode. But before we get into it, I want to thank our friends at Tour Striker, the most awarded training aids in golf and trusted by tour pros, coaches, and serious players around the world. Whether it's their best-selling smart ball for better connection or their lineup of tools to improve your swing mechanics, Tour Striker has everything that you need to level up your game. And because you're part of the golf parent community, you get 15% off anything at tourstriker.com with the code GOLFPARENT. All caps, one word. Go check them out and give your junior golfer the tools the pros trust. And now, let's get into the episode. Ed, I've been looking forward to this conversation for a while. You are one of the OG most important voices in junior golf. What a privilege, what a pleasure. Thank you for coming on the Golf Parent Podcast.
Well, thanks for having me on, Ryan. I appreciate it. It was an honor to be asked because I listen to your podcast all the time. So it's one of my favorite podcasts.
I'll be honest, it's a relatively new podcast. We've only been doing it for about 6 months. And so to actually hear that feedback, it feels nice that the fact that you've actually listened to multiple and you're kind of like tallying them off of who you enjoyed listening to. And how cool is that? So thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, you've had some great coaches on.
And now we've got another one. So let's get right
you.
into it. Ed, you've got decades of experience nurturing and guiding some of the top juniors in the country, kind of go from learning the game all the way up to, getting Division I scholarships and beyond. Where's the game at in your mind right now when it comes to junior golf? Like, how does it compare right now to maybe when you started, and how have you kind of seen the evolution of junior golf? Maybe a state of the union for junior golf right now.
So the one thing that comes to mind when you ask that question is that the kids have a lot more opportunities now than they used to. It seems like heck, I think that there are two tournaments in our area going on today, and then I think that there's you could add another one tomorrow. So the kids have a lot of opportunities to play in tournaments, and so that's probably the biggest thing. It seems like parents these days are seeking out coaching more and more. I think for the most part that's a good thing. Certainly, if they find a coach that is going to be very very junior friendly, someone who knows the ropes and knows about kids and knows the things that are important to make them better. But yeah, those are the things that come to mind with the state of the game.
Yeah, it certainly seems to be in a very positive place. I saw a stat just the other day that uh, golf in general is up, I think, 41%, and it's mainly in kind of the underserved, or at least those portions with, female golfers, as well as minority groups are really taking the game. Like, the game's exploding. Like, it's more popular than ever. It's more kids are getting involved than ever. And it's definitely an exciting time to be not only a golf fan but involved in the industry.
I think COVID helped that. I think
Yeah.
COVID brought some more people into the game. Plus, I think there started to be a concern with some parents and their kids getting concussions in some other sports, and so they started looking for other opportunities, and golf just happens to be one of them. And I think it's a pretty safe space.
Well, I'm certainly one of those. I'm Canadian by birth, and my young son, he loves two sports right now, golf and hockey. And we are doing everything possible to try and kind of nurture more the golf side than the hockey side for all those reasons that you're mentioning. But I mean, golf is or hockey is definitely exciting. It gets his attention. But as parents, we're like, oh, please play something that's got a little bit more longevity and will make the parents a little less stressed every single time he hits the ice.
I think a lot of the kids enjoy the team aspect of hockey and other sports. Whereas in golf, sometimes you don't have that. But the PGA of America's had that PGA Junior League now for, I don't know, several years. And there's a team aspect to that. And I think that they do a good job with that because it's placed at an age range where, um, the childhood development experts will call that range of like 8 to 12, the sampling years, where they're going to try all kinds of different things. Well, if they get involved in the PGA Junior League, they get the jerseys, and it's a team aspect, and it's not overly competitive, and so it gives them an opportunity to fall in love with golf. So I really like what PGA Junior League is all about.
That's fantastic. What's your take on early specialization versus, I mean, you've worked with so many juniors. Do you appreciate when they already have a bit of a background and a love for the game of golf, or would you rather just give me an athlete and let me turn them into a golfer?
I think if they're playing other sports, it gives them an opportunity to develop some of those athletic skills. Um, I think it gives them an opportunity to learn to compete if they're playing other sports. I think early specialization, I think it's okay for some kids, but as a general rule, I'm not crazy about it. I think if you have a young man or a young lady that's between 8 and 12, I think you get them involved in everything that they want to do. And then once they get to about age 13, they're pretty much going to tell you what they want to be good at. And to be really good at something takes a lot of work, but that work can't seem like work. It has to seem like fun. Like when I was growing up, I couldn't wait to get to the golf course. And that's what, so it wasn't work to me. And so I think that, like I said, between 8 and 12, just expose them to a lot of activities, a lot of sports. It's good for their development. It'll remain fun for them. And then once they turn 13, they're gonna tell you what they want to be good at, and they'll usually pare down their activities to just a couple of different things.
So I'm going to ask you a question that I haven't asked yet, but I'm really kind of curious based on your unique background and experience of how you tackle this. So let's assume that I'm giving you, a handful of 13-year-olds that are already athletic. So they've been playing multiple sports, and you're tasked with the job of taking maybe two or three of them, and there's a tournament at the end of the summer. You got the summer to work with them. What would a typical, and you could work 8 hours a day with them. What would that look like? What would you kind of take them through? How would you develop them? What would you focus on? And what would you be looking for at when the tournament's ready to maybe pick the one that you think is most ready? What would you be looking for?
Good question. So I think helping those kids to develop their skills, and to develop the skills would be really helping them to control things like face and path and the face to path relationship, where their club's hitting the ground. Can they hit the center of the face or close to the center of the face most of the time? So really getting the club to do what they want to hit the shots that they want. Those are the things that I'm going to value more than I am the technique. Um, I think speed is good. Speed is good for the level where you want to play. For example, if I've got a young man in high school that wants to play golf in college, I want to make sure that we do a little bit of speed training that's going to help him be able to play golf in college. But if I've got that group of kids that I'm going to work with all summer long, I want to make sure that they're very skilled. And when it comes to short game, solid contact and distance control are probably the priorities more than anything else.
Okay, there's a lot to unpack there. Can we define for the audience the difference, in your opinion, of technique and skill?
Yes. So an example of technique might be, what are you doing? What are you doing with your lead wrist at the top? Are you cupping it a lot? And if you're cupping a lot and the face is open, I might say let's or a little bit more toward a flat left wrist. So that would be technique. But in coaching your technique, I might say, you know what, show me that open face. And then I might say, show me a club face that's too closed. And then let's find something in between. So a Goldilocks approach that can help you find your feels for the day. And you can use video feedback, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Um, so that would be an example of technique and an example of skill related to the club face. We might be doing something like, if I have a more of a beginner or novice in front of me, I'll put three balls in front of them and I'll say, all right, let's hit the first one to the right. Let's hit the first one or the second one to the left. And then let's hit the third one down the middle. So they start to understand the role of the club face. And then as that player gets better, I'll get them into what I call variable club face practice. So we're going to start with your error. So if your error is an open club face, we're going to start by hitting a golf ball to the right. And then the next one, I want you to get that to go to the left. And then maybe we'll do a little bit more to the right. Maybe we'll do one down the middle. We'll change the face every time to get them to understand the feels for controlling the club face. But it also gives them maybe some tools that they can use when they go out on the golf course and they're having one of those days where everything's going to the left, for example. And then what did you do in practice what did it feel like in practice to get that face a little bit more open and impact? And so it can help them adapt on the golf course as well. But so that would be uh, a technique example, and then a skill example for club face.
And I'm assuming, for example, with the skill with manipulating the club face, we're keeping one variable the same, which is keep your feet square to the target. Everything else, you're just trying to manipulate the club face to understand how to hit it right, left, or straight. Nothing else with the body.
Correct. And the club face is so influential. The club face is responsible for about 80% of the starting direction. And so the club face is very influential. Plus, if your face is too open or too closed, a lot of time we'll see some compensations in other areas of the swing. Like, for example, if the face gets too closed, oftentimes we'll see a path that's too far to the right. And then we have issues with hitting the ground too early or hitting hooks or sometimes even hitting the hosel. So some contact issues. So the face is very influential on everything else.
What's a field drill or something that we can do to better understand our face? I know you gave the example with the novice of just hitting it right, hitting it left, hitting it straight, but is there anything else that you found is kind of like a good drill or a good feel to make sure that we know what a square club face feels like?
So we'll talk about three different times where you can change the face. Number one is your grip. Usually don't like messing with grips unless I have to. So number two, we could go to changing the club face early backswing. So depending on what the error is, I'll say, all right, well, your club face has a tendency to be open. So let's reproduce that error going back. So early backswing, we might be feeling that face rotating a little bit open, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then the next one to vary it, I might say, all right, let's hit one where we feel like the club face is a little bit too close going back. And then we'll do various degrees on that, see if we can have an effect on the ball flight. So that would be the second easiest time to change the face because the club's moving its slowest. And then the third time would be coming out of the top where you feel like maybe you're closing the face a little bit here or opening the face a little bit here. But the club's moving faster at that point. And so I don't think it's as easy, but sometimes I'll explore all of those options with people and let them decide what's best for them.
Okay, Ed, I'm going to put you on the spot here. I'm understanding skills, and I'm understanding now the why you're putting an extra premium on the skill development. For the elite golfer, what would you say is the three most important skills that they have versus everybody else?
The elite golfer, I think it's the face to path relationship, which that's almost, I don't know if that counts as two or just one. But then I think hitting the ground in the right place and hitting the ball in a consistent place on the face. I don't think it absolutely has to be centered, but as long as it's fairly consistent, you don't want it fairly consistent on the hosel, but fairly close to the center and but hitting it in the same place because gear effect has, especially when it gets into the metal woods, gear effect has a lot of influence on the golf ball.
where you're actually hitting it off the toe or off the heel, and yeah, no,
Correct.
that makes sense. Okay, let's focus on the ground impact for a second. How do we? I mean, obviously, depending on the club, it's a different place where we need to impact the ground. But what do we do to understand better how and where the club face interacts with the ground? Like, what are ways that you teach that?
Well, I use a TrackMan, and so you can look at angle of attack or low point. But so I will explain to the student, this is where you want to hit the ground. With a lot of people, I will ask the question, do you know where you want to hit the ground? And it's surprising how many people don't know the answer to that. But I will ask that question, but then I'll explain it. And the brain learns from variability. So I may do something as simple as, all right, let's hit the ground a little bit too early. Let's hit the ground a little bit too late. Let's hit the ground just right. The Goldilocks approach again. Have them hit a shot. I had I've got this, what I call the three key questions worksheet. And it's the three key questions are, where'd the ball start? How did it curve? How was the contact? And so I want my students to understand be able to read the ball flight. What's the ball do? And then they can use those three questions and figure out what's going on. Well, I've got a sheet where they can do that. They can do that with 10 shots with a sand wedge, and they write down what the contact was like. Was it solid? Was it heel? Was it toe? Was it fat? Was it thin? And so on. And then how did the ball curve? Do that with some wedges, do that with 7-iron, do that with a driver. And then they bring that back to me, and it helps them. Uh, we talk about it, and it helps them to understand the process of what's going on. But I had a young man last week. Um, we pretty much were able to determine that he was in a lot of heel and a lot of thin. So during a lesson, we worked a lot on varying the face. All right, let's since you have the tendency to hit the heel, we're going to start on the heel. So I want you to hit a couple of shots on the heel for me. Now let's hit some shots on the toe, and then let's hit some shots in the middle of the club face. So we worked on that. We kind of ran out of time. So the next day I see him on the range, and he said, he said, I'm hitting better. I'm hitting more in the middle of the face, but I'm hitting everything thin. And I said, okay, I want you to hit one thin for me. So he did. I said, now I want you to hit one a half an inch fat. And he looked at me like it was crazy, but he went ahead and did it. I said, now just hit one good. And he did. And he looked at me with a big smile on his face. And he said, that worked. And so remember that the brain learns from variability. And so by doing things like that intentionally, it helps you to learn and improve.
I haven't heard it articulated like that, the Goldilocks approach to coaching, where you understand, your brain understands all the different variables that you could do. Hit it right, hit it fat, hit it thin, hit it up, down, low. And by fully, I guess you're teaching self-awareness and club awareness, all the rest of that, so that you ideally can tap into the one thing that you want to happen, as opposed to, and able to self-correct when things aren't going right, because you're like, right, I know what that feels like to be hitting it right. So now I'm going to compensate. That's
And
interesting.
that's skill. That's improving someone's skill.
Hmm. What do you think is okay? So let's go back to those kids that you're basically nurturing to get into this big tournament at the end of the summer. What would a typical day then, if you had 8 hours with them, how would you be balancing block practice, deliberate practice, playing tournaments, other tournaments? Like how would you be getting them the most ready as possible for that big tournament at the end of the summer? Hey, if you're enjoying the Golf Parent, if these conversations have inspired you or helped you become a better parent to your junior golfer, please hit subscribe. It truly means the world to us and sends a powerful signal that what we're doing matters. And if you're feeling extra generous, leave us a review or follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. Your support helps us grow and continue bringing you incredible guests each week. Thank you. And now back to the episode.
I think the further away on the calendar we are from that tournament, the more we might tend to work on technique. The more we might be tending to work on this stuff or the shoulder turn or whatever. But we would still do some skill drills in there. And another thing that I like to do is I like kids to compete every day.
Mm.
Whether I'll design a game for them based on to measure what we're working on. I might give them a little bit of a pressure drill where I'll ask them to do three in a row. Might be all right, we're going to have 3 tee shots between that pole and that pole. That's your fairway. So we're going to see if you can get 3 in a row within those 2 poles. And I remember I had a college player in front of me one day. I asked him to do 3 in a row, and I don't remember what we were trying to do, but he hit two in a row right there, and then he got set up for the third one. And all of a sudden, he looked back at me. He said, "I could see why we're doing this." So a little bit of kind of puts you under a little bit of pressure, right? So I might create a game. So I always like the kids competing every day, and that might be a putting drill. It might be let's see how many balls we can chip within 2 club lengths out of 5, or let's play 9 holes where you're going to chip and go put it in, and we're going to keep score. And so I like the kids competing every day, but early on it's going to be a little bit more technique, and then as we get closer and closer to that event, it's going to be a little bit more skill based. So
And,
if we got a tournament coming up in a couple of days,
yeah.
yeah, you might work on your technique for 5 minutes. That's it. But then it's going to be more skill stuff and hitting shots and working on your routines and things like that.
And during that summer, the putting drills and the pressure drills with the practice is perfect. I mean, because you're simulating pressure, you're creating artificial pressure so that when they do feel that pressure, when it actually counts, it feels a little bit more familiar, which is exactly, I'm assuming, why we're doing it. What else would you share, though, on the mindset side of how to properly prepare them for tournament golf?
I think understanding the process of learning and improving is important. Understanding that um, the future is uncertain. Understanding that no matter what you do, you might go out tomorrow and have a bad day. Um, some of the best players in the world don't play good all the time, right? And so failure is okay. Failure is almost required in this game. The mindset becomes no matter where you are, we're gonna try to get a little bit better. Um, I don't really want you comparing yourself to others. I want you comparing yourself to you, and wherever you are, we're going to try to get a little bit better. I like the kid using stats early on. I like the Golf Metrics app by Mark Brody. That one's pretty easy to use, but they get some strokes gain comparisons, and you can see they can see where they are. And then as they get a little bit more serious and get a little closer to college golf, I'll encourage them to sign up for Decade because I really like Scott Fawcett's program with Decade. I think it's really good. And so those are the stats programs I use, but it gives you something to compare to. So, um, for example, you take a look at your stats, and we'll take we'll take a look at your 2 weaknesses, if you will, or the 2 parts of your game that maybe you're not performing as well. And let's say those are approach shots and putting. And so then we'll take a look at those 2 areas of the game. Is there any technique that we need to work on to make these things better? But also here are some skill drills that you can do to make those parts of your game better. And then we're going to work on that for 6 or 8 weeks, and we'll go back in and take a look and do we get better? And that's the mindset. So after that 6 to 8 week period, we're going to go back in and take a look and see, all right, did you get better? Yes. If you didn't, we need to reevaluate and see, is there something else we need to do? A different way to look at this. If you did, now what are your opportunities? So the mindset is always trying to get a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better. And it doesn't matter how you are compared to everybody else. It's only, are you?
You've talked and alluded to a little bit about the growth mindset, about the fact that failure is not your enemy. It's not something that you need to be shy or shying away from, but almost to be embraced. Can you talk more about how important that is in playing good golf or developing into a good golfer?
Yeah, I think people, growth mindset versus fixed mindset, right? Growth mindset um, is having that mindset where you're always trying to get a little bit better. Fixed mindset might be someone who's a little bit too focused on outcome and always comparing themselves to others. And the research would say that the fixed mindset people are going to maybe look for the easier opportunities, whereas the growth mindset people are going to look for challenges. They're gonna want to be have their skills challenged in a tournament. So, um, and then I think from um, a parent perspective, I think you want to reward effort and not outcome. I think you want to be supportive, and then I might also add that from a parent perspective, you're not the coach. You know, I'm the coach, and all you are, you're just there to support that process. I've had a couple of parents who seem to want to get in the way, and I've had a discussion with them, and sometimes they keep coming back, and I've had a couple that didn't come back, but um, you know, that's probably a topic for another time. But I think
Well,
from a parent
yeah,
perspective, reward the effort and not the outcome.
yeah, it's so important, and that seems to be a theme that is consistent, where is you can't always control the outcome, but you can control the process and what your effort level is, your attitude, all these things leading up to it. But let's go back though, because you have worked with so many junior golfers. What are the trends that you see from the parents that are giving their kids the best chance to succeed versus those that are actually holding their kids back without intentionally even realizing it?
I think there's one parent of a couple of the juniors that I work with now. He is so supportive, and he's he doesn't try to play coach with them. He takes them to all kinds of tournaments. He brings them up to see me a couple of times a month year round, and they come from Pueblo, which is probably almost 2 hours away, and um, he is so supportive as a parent and never gets in their way, and uh, puts them in as many tournaments as they want to get, signs them up for their stats program, and just signs them up for lessons, and he's just very supportive. And if one of his kids says, "Hey, I'm not in it very good," so what would Ed tell you? And so that's very good. On the other hand, the opposite of that might be the parent who tries to be the coach, or it might be the parent who gets on YouTube and says, "Hey, I want you to try this," and then the kid shows up and he's doing this drill that the parent found on the YouTube, and it's like, "Hey, wait a minute, that's not what we're trying to do here. We're trying to improve this." So um, parents aren't the coach. The other thing would be, from a parent perspective, would be poor reactions. The parents are out watching the kids in the tournament, and the kid will hit a bad shot, and then look at the parent, and then the parent has a bad reaction, and I hate to see that. My friend John Donegan says that we should have a junior, or we should have a golf tournament for the parents, and the juniors caddy for the parents, but the juniors have to act like the parents. It's like, oh man, I can't believe you did that. I can't believe you three putted. That's funny. But yeah, I hate to see negative reactions on parents' faces, because those kids are out there trying. They're trying their best to do um, to do their best, and uh, negative reactions on parents' faces, I hate seeing that, and um, that's going to lead to more of a fixed mindset, and the kids want to please the parents. So yeah, I hate seeing that.
Yeah, I mean, it's so much of it is not even, I think, consciously aware with what the parents are doing, where you have to really have this layer of kind of like this boundary to make sure that you're not reacting, that you're staying somewhat intentional with everything you're doing. And I think just hearing that message from you being reinforced is important to hear, that to realize that, wait a second, my reactions actually do matter. What my child sees, either the disappointment or the elation or whatever in me, is actually affecting their next shot. So the more, and I'm assuming you're suggesting, the more kind of even keeled, zen, deadpan that we can be, in pleasant, not scowling, but just like not overly reacting, I
Absolutely.
think the better it helps a child to stay kind of in the moment and stay present.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what right now, the technology, you've mentioned a bunch of technology apps, and the game is there's so much new innovation that's happening. But with that, sometimes we lose some of the old school elements of the game. What would you say is the most overrated part of the game right now, where you actually don't think it's as important as it's getting um, built up to be?
Oh, good question. As you were asking that question, the first thing that came to mind, a lesson that I had with a young man this morning. He happens to have a TrackMan simulator at home, and so I've got my TrackMan uh, feeding to an iPad, right, with the numbers, and he hits a shot, and then every time he hits a shot, he looks at the numbers. And so I've done this in the past with him. I'll go over and I'll turn that away from him so he can't see it. Or I'll tell him, I said, I want you to spend some time, if you're practicing at home, I want you to spend some time with the numbers turned off. So all you can see is ball flight. I want you reacting to the ball flight and not the numbers. I don't want you to be getting too wrapped up in the numbers on TrackMan. That's just information, and mostly it's information for me. I mean, I might be able to circle one number and say that's what we're working on today, but I don't want him getting wrapped up in all the numbers. So I think that's if the kids are around a launch monitor, I think some of them are going to do that. They're going to get a little bit too wrapped up. Um, that's the only thing that comes to mind so far.
It's a big one because it is the thing that people are getting obsessed with the numbers as opposed to, the old motto of digging it out of the dirt.
Yeah.
Like just understanding from becoming more of a field player as opposed to an analytical player. Pros and cons to everything, right? I mean, the kids are understanding now more than ever their numbers and how far everything's traveling and all this stuff, which obviously translates to the golf game. But then to your point, you could be becoming a little bit too obsessed with that as opposed to actually working on the parts of the game that are a little bit more organic, a little bit more athletic.
Now training aids. I don't want to say that I'm not a big fan of training aids, but I'm not a big fan of getting in a million reps with a training aid. So the younger brother of the younger of the two that come to see me from Pueblo, we were working on wrist angles recently because he has a tendency to go this way. And so I have it's from Tour Striker. It's called the Educator. Yeah, it's something that you can put on your club and you can train the wrist angles. But I would have,
Actually, a sponsor and a friend of the program, a
oh
tour
yeah,
striker. Oh yeah, Martin Chuck and
good
his
company.
team are sponsoring the podcast. So I hope what you're about to say is going to be nice about them because
Oh
they're a good fan.
yeah. This young man's name was Brady, and I would have him do. All right, we're going to have 5 shots using the educator, and then we're going to take it off for one, and then we're going to put it back on. We're going to use it for 4, but then we're going to take it off and we're going to hit 2 shots without it, and then we're going to hit 3 balls with it, and then 3 balls without it. So we're slowly weaning off of the educator, and going to learn the feels that you need to be able to duplicate. And then we'll probably go back to that Goldilocks approach where, all right, show me the air. Now show me what would be too much of the other way, and then find the middle. And then sometimes I'll say, okay, give me too much. Give me 10% too much, for example. But that's how I like using training aids. I don't like just swing after swing after swing with um, using the training aid over and over and over again. Use the training aid to help find your feels, and then get your way off it and make sure you can maintain that.
Yeah, fantastic advice and very true. What would you say is like what separates the best of the best, like the elite junior golfer from the rest of their um playing partners? Like if you could put your finger on maybe one or two things, is it that simple? Like have you seen patterns or trends either in their mindset, behavior, shot making ability? Like what would you say kind of separates the best?
Um, I think the best are, as a general rule, I think the best are really good athletes. I think when you turn on the TV on the weekend, whether you're watching the LPGA or the PGA, I think the majority of those players, maybe not, maybe all of them, are great athletes. I think that helps them to be able to deal with um, like the face to path relationship doesn't get doesn't get too out of whack. They're really good at controlling the club and hitting the shot that they want. Um, I have a video on my phone. It's the 30 guys that made it to the Tour Championship at East Lake in 2020, and I'll show that to students sometimes. I'll say, look at this. They're all different, and a lot of them would have something in their swing that kind of quirky that I wouldn't teach to somebody. But they're all different. But they're all very skilled players. If I asked them to hit a fade or a draw, they could do it immediately. So I think the elite players are great athletes, but um, even the even the kids that aren't great athletes, um, I think that they have an opportunity to get better and maybe accomplish their goals of playing golf in college through working hard, through through work ethic. And so I think that that's important as well.
So it sounds like then the best of the best are marrying that athletic ability with the hard work. And when you can marry those two together, those are the ones that are making it onto the tour and, the best of the best.
I think everybody who coaches this game has seen someone who gets in front of them who seems to have a lot of natural talent, but they don't work hard, so they don't really go as far as they would certainly have the potential to.
Hmm. How do we teach work ethic?
I think that has to come from within. I think the desire needs to be there, and early on, I think you cultivate that um, with fun, making sure golf is fun. I've had a few players who've gone to some pretty high levels whose parents made them go practice, and they end up they end up hating the game. And so that I don't think that's a way to cultivate fun and work ethic is by making them go practice. I think that they have to want to go practice. And so you make it fun at a young age. They turn 13, they tell you they want to be good at golf, then they're probably going to go want to practice on their own.
Hmm. And is that seem to be the magical age, like right around 10 to 13 when
Yeah, I think
they start focusing?
yeah, boys and girls will tend to mature at a different age, and even between um, even with boys, I have two 14-year-olds that are friends, and they play together quite a bit. And one of them, I think, is probably 6 feet tall, and the other one's probably 5'3". And so they're both the same age, but maturity-wise, physically they're at different levels. So it depends. Everybody's different, but as a general rule, yeah, I think it's 13.
Score wise, can the smaller out of the two friends can he keep up with the larger one?
Um, the larger one's been taking lessons from me for 4 years, and the shorter one is fairly new to my program, so he's not there yet. But
Yeah, okay.
we're gonna get there.
I love that. Well, listen, if there's any parents listening to this right now and they're in the Colorado area, like what's the best way to get into your ecosystem, to find you, to get into some of your online programs and your elite junior program? How do people find you?
My website is edoldhamgolf.com, and there's a contact me form on there that you can do. I'm on Instagram at Oldham Golf. I'm on Facebook, but I'm not real active on Facebook. Ed Oldham Golf Instruction, I think. But yeah, those are some ways that people can get in contact with me.
That's great. Ed, you've got the ears and the eyes of golf parents around the country and the world. What advice would you give them if they're wanting to give their kids the best chance to succeed? What would you say to them?
Find a good coach. Find a good coach in your area that's had success with juniors in the past. And to do that, all you have to do the next time you go to a tournament, just talk to some of the parents, and they'll tell you who's successful, who they've sent their kids to, and but I think there are good coaches all over the country, and so I think that that's probably a pretty good way to do it. You don't need to fly to Denver.
Unless they want to. I mean, the skiing's great, the summers are great, so yeah. And if they do, they'll look you up. What about a junior golfer who maybe is struggling to realize their potential right now? What would you say to them?
Uh, the first question I would ask is why. I would ask them, why are you struggling? And um, sometimes sometimes it's a golf swing issue. Sometimes it's a short game issue. Sometimes it's a technique issue. Sometimes it's not. They sometimes they get a little bit too uh, too wrapped up in worried about the future. Maybe the nerves are bothering them. You had Dr. Raymond Pryor on your podcast. Raymond is great. He talks about the difference between stress, nerves, and anxiety. And I talk to my kids about this, that there's stress in everyday life. You go play a hard golf course, that's more stressful than it would be a normal golf course. You go play in a major tournament, that's more stressful, right? But there's stress in everyday life. Nerves, nerves are nerves are part of golf, right? Everybody is nervous on the first tee, but rather than try to make those nerves go away, you just sit in it and experience that and accept those nerves, and that'll help you to grow as a golfer. Anxiety, on the other hand, would be if your mind is focused too much on the past or the present, or excuse me, the past or the future, and not being present enough. And so I might ask some questions like that. Um, I might ask questions. What are you paying attention to while you're swinging? What was your intent there? Um, I'll ask that question. It's unbelievable how often I get, well, I wasn't thinking about anything. And if you're not thinking about anything, your brain just runs the same motor pattern over and over again. So it's doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And so I think that there are a lot of questions that I can ask to dig in that might not always be golf swing related. It might be focus related, and it might be, where are you placing your attention? Golf is a game of attention, and um, so asking questions and digging deep and trying to find out the answers.
Wonderful. Well, it's been a joy and a privilege to be asking you questions for this last hour.
Well, thanks, Ryan.
And I really do appreciate it. I look forward to having you on again, and I appreciate the time. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it, and you have a good day.
Thanks for tuning in. As a fellow golf parent, I know how much this journey matters. If this podcast helped you even 1%, please consider following and reviewing it. It's the #1 way to grow the community and keep bringing you elite insights week after week. And while you're here, check out the show description for exclusive discounts from our sponsors, handpicked to help your junior golfer train smarter and play better.